free to start the meeting.
Okay, so we'll call the meeting of the Historic District Commission of Huntington Woods to order at 7:32. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda for the evening. Motion,
Motion to approve.
Robert and Chris?
Yes.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Robert? Mark?
Okay, the record, that's unanimous.
Unanimous?
Okay,
Okay,
I just want to make sure we could, for every action, so to the end, we would like to have a roll call vote, just so that we can make sure that we get everybody, because the minutes are being sent someplace and then they're being sent back here. So
right, so
that's the only,
I'll call.
yeah,
it.
you'll call their names and they'll vote.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, sounds good. You'll notice that you did not receive the minutes from the November 4th meeting, so we need another motion to defer the minutes to the next meeting, which will
Yeah,
be.
and just for a point of clarification, Madam Chair, we have minutes. They're just not in a format that's consistent with what we use to edit and distribute. So while our technical people are working that out, the minutes should be forthcoming. We will have a January meeting, and at that meeting, you should have 3 or 4 sets of minutes to approve.
Okay, so we need a motion to defer approval of those minutes or no?
Yes, you do.
Okay, can I have a motion to defer approval of the November 4th minutes to the next first meeting in January?
So moved.
Martha?
Second.
Robert? All those in favor? Robert?
Aye.
Mark?
Yeah.
Rick? Steve? Martha?
Aye.
Chris? Jim?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
unanimous. Okay, sounds good. So we have one application before us this evening. It's a proposed walkway porch, landscape changes and reconfiguration to the Johnson residence at 26602 Dundee. Thank you both for being here this evening.
Madam Chair, just to give a little bit of background on this, they were here at the last meeting at November 4th, and they were tabled to give consideration to some of the comments and considerations offered by the Historic District Commission to revise their plan to be something more consistent with what the Historic District Commission was looking for. They've done that. They're here now. Jeff Fernari's here and Jeff Johnson is here. Jeff Johnson's the homeowner. And it would be their opportunity to present the plan, Madam Chair.
Okay, Jeff Johnson, do you want to start or do you want to have Jeff present the plan? It's up to you.
Yeah,
Floor
I
is-
think Jeff can kick off with the plan so everyone can see the revised edits, and we'll go from there.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. If the host could enable screen share, that would be great. There we go.
Okay, you should be able to.
All right. So I pulled up the color version first because I think that would be easiest for everybody to see and understand. So basically, what we have done here is we have shown the chain. We had a circle here. We got rid of the circle. We are keeping the walkway from the city sidewalk, which is over here, up to about 8 feet off of the porch. That's just because when we go to do the demo and the excavation for the new footing for the porch, we're going to need to get equipment in through here. So, you know, that end of the walkway won't be salvageable. So we'll have to re-pour that little bit of section. We still have the walk going from the main walk over to the driveway for current day function. That certainly wasn't as necessary back when the house was first built. And as you can see, we got rid of the clay brick option and changed it to concrete. So it matches with the concrete that's there. It'll just be a standard brushed concrete finish. The other thing that we added on this that wasn't on the previous plan was we added the footprint of the existing porch, which is the dotted line area out this way. So this smaller one is the porch itself. This larger one is the step. And then you can see the outer dark line is our new proposed porch, which at the last meeting we explained we wanted to make the porch bigger because it fits today's lifestyle and household a lot better. It's much safer to have that porch bigger. Right now the porch is very tight and one can easily fall off. And what we're proposing for that is concrete top with brick sides, house brick to match the house as close as possible. I think, the reason for doing this is because the current porch is in disrepair again, and it's not something that can be fixed, and we would never advise anyone to try to fix it because the fix won't last and could create safety problems. So that's an overview of the plan itself. If I scroll down in the packet that should have been provided to everybody, there were construction details that show that we have the footing going down to frost depth, and then we're pinning the CMUs to the footing so that everything is structurally sound and meets building code. And then there's the brick veneer with the concrete cap on top. And then the step will be handled in the same way, brick veneer with the concrete cap on top. And then one of the changes that we made to our images page, I guess there's two things I can show here. First, I can show again, just as a reminder, I'll blow it up a little bit better here. You can see how the concrete porch is failing from underneath here, and it's separating and concrete is crumbling underneath there. So there's no viable way to actually repair what is there. And then if I go over to the sample image of what we're trying to do, it's this guy here. So, brushed concrete walkway, just like what's there. And then a porch similar to this, obviously with brick that fits the style of the house. And just a simple brushed concrete cap, which is what we have now on the top there, is just brushed concrete. So that in summary is what we're trying to do. And those are the changes that we have made and resubmitted based on the conversations and comments from our last review.
Okay, Jeff Johnson, do you have anything to add to the project comments?
Yeah, no, thanks, Jeff, and thanks again, everyone, for getting together and hearing our proposal. Hopefully we took most of all the edits and feedback, which we appreciated the candid feedback to make more appropriate changes to be more in touch with what the committee felt would preserve the historic feel of the house. And we did want to, it was, I would like, I was reading through some of the historic, one of the links on your all's website, which mentions the process of returning a property to a state of utility through repair and alteration, which makes possible an efficient contemporary use while preserving those portions and features of the property which are significant to his historic, architectural and cultural values. The bigness to increase the size was, I felt, important and more efficient contemporary use given our young child and Amazon grocery deliveries and putting a seat out there to take in the view and the neighbors. So we're hoping that and I talked to some neighbors who also increased the size of their porch. So hopefully there's some familiarity with that, as well as the additional concrete path connecting the driveway, which we mentioned on the last meeting, will really do a lot towards actually allowing us to use the front door, which now, as you can see, we drive and use the side door, and we'd like to use the front door because there's a nice little mudroom there, and it's just a really nice feature of the house. So those are the two major additions that are changes that I saw: the size and the additional walkway. And yeah, again, I appreciate it and yield to whoever is next.
Thank you. Well, we appreciate you making the changes and coming back. Hank, does the city have anything to say right now?
Yeah, these are basically the changes that Mr. Johnson, Mr. Fenari have incorporated into the plan are pretty much what the planning commission had asked for. They've gone back to a brick and concrete cap. Might be a little clarification on the steps. And are those poured in place concrete steps? Jeff?
The existing ones or the
The
ones?
ones you're proposing?
The ones we're proposing, it'll have a poured concrete footing, but then we'll use concrete masonry units as the structure.
Okay,
With rebar tied in, and then we will veneer it with the house brick.
okay, so the
that's a more-
steps will have a cap, but I'm assuming, or I think I saw somewhere the 3-inch cap. So you're
Yes.
gonna have like a one brick basically exposed and then the cap to make your 7-inch risers.
Yes.
So, okay.
Yeah, it'll probably be like
So-
a brick and a quarter, brick and a half, something like that, but yes.
Right. The only other thing is too, that I know that sorry, I'm at the wrong meeting. The Historic District Commission had asked last time was there was some concern about the walkway from the sidewalk, from the driveway to the service walk on the front. And again, this is something that is pretty much addressed in Standard 10. Which basically says new additions and adjacent or related new construction shall be undertaken in a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. And again, of course, that walkway, should it ever be desired to be, could be removed. Another note is, as Mr. Johnson has indicated, they've taken out only the part of the front walk that's necessary for them to facilitate the new porch. So that part of the walkway is still going to be intact to the extent it can. I don't see really anything else that you might have questions about other than they have gone ahead and on their drawing this time, they have indicated where the old porch was. So you can kind of see what they had and what they don't have. So basically, you have a bare minimum landing, which is pretty much what they had at the time. And now they're opting for something a little bit larger, but they have changed their materials and the way that it's going to be constructed to be more consistent with what the HDC has asked. Other than that, there's really nothing else that we have to comment that we haven't already talked about. So the city will take a step back and let the HDC ask the questions they need to.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to call for comments in the order that you're appearing on my screen. So Jim, you're here to my right. Any questions or comments for Mr. Johnson?
No, I mean, I was not at the last meeting, so I appreciate that the changes were made. But I have no questions. I see no issue with what's been presented.
Robert?
I do have questions. How wide is the original porch?
The original porch is approximately 9 feet wide.
So we're adding 5 feet to it.
Yes.
Okay. The new step up to the
Mhm.
porch,
Yes.
is that going to be the full length?
No, the new step is only the same width as the existing, which is 6 feet. The difference is the new step is only 18 inches deep and the old step is actually 4 feet deep. So the step itself is getting smaller.
By 2.5 feet?
Yeah.
Bear with me while I write notes, please.
Sure.
Mr. Fenari, this just is a question that the way that step that was there now is the iteration that is currently in, it actually is more of a landing, step down, another landing, which is actually that step, then the sidewalk.
Correct. Yes.
So the proposed new step would be how deep?
18 inches by 6 feet long.
Okay. Those are all my questions for now. Thank you.
Okay, Mark? Do you have any questions?
I don't know.
Okay, Rick, you're up. Yeah, Rick, you're on mute.
What about the side, the width of the porch? How much wider is it?
So the porch, it was 4 feet. Now it's going to be 7 feet. But some of the area that is to be porch now was landing before,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
That's it. Steve?
First of all, I want to express my appreciation for making the changes. I think that you did listen to at least some of my comments. The plan looks almost as I commented before. And I again want to compliment you on the plantings. I think it's going to be complementary to the design, and that adds my comments.
Okay, thank you. Chris?
I would agree with Steve. Thank you again for addressing the comments. I do appreciate the amount of details that you provided. It makes it much easier for the commission to be able to review, to have lots of documentation in front of us. And I think it will be very complimentary to the historic structure.
Great. Martha? You have anything to add or ask?
Yeah, I was wondering, what is the proximity of the new porch to the windows on either side? It's hard to tell in the actual photograph of the house with all the shrubbery. I can't get a read on how wide or where it will line up. And your other picture, your like little schematic, it's not in proportion with the windows. So I was just wondering if you could give me an idea of where the outside edge of the porch will come to in relationship to the shutters and the window on each side.
Yeah, I think that that was in the last set of drawings when we did the elevation. I want to say that the outside edges are almost going to come right to the edge of the windows, I believe. It was either the shutters or the windows. I know we lined it up with one of those two, but
I believe it's the shutters, Jeff, because it looks like on the drawing that you provided us, it looks like it's a little bit to the inside, to the door side of the window.
yeah, I thought it was the shutters too, but I know unfortunately I didn't download the other package because I thought that you guys had the elevation that we provided from the first time around. So I apologize for that.
So drawing 4 of 6 shows an elevation that should give
Yeah.
you some understanding of the references.
That's what I'm looking at, Chris.
Yep, that's what I see.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't flip up high enough. My fault.
You did include
So
it.
yeah, if I share this again,
Under the shutter.
yeah, so it would be, so your shutter would be about here. And then, you know, so this would line up with the edge of the shutter.
Okay.
Okay. Does anybody have any further questions or comments?
I do.
Okay, Robert?
The existing step pad, the initial step, is being reduced in size by 2.5 feet, down to 1 foot 8 inches by 6 feet. Is that correct?
1 foot 6 inches by 6 feet. Yeah.
1 foot 6 inches
Mhm.
by 6 feet.
Yeah.
All right, 18 inches. I think that blows the proportion and scale of not only the existing porch, but the proposed porch. The proposed porch being substantially larger than the existing would, according to my eye, require a new step that is at least meets at least the existing size, if not larger. And since we're approaching this from a safety and a well-being standpoint, a narrower step, an 18-inch step, especially in this type of weather, and this is only the beginning, can be hazardous for those Amazon food deliveries and everything else that comes to a house. So I think that maintaining the existing size is a much smarter way to go and stays within the historic reference to the house.
For a point of clarification, the steps as proposed will meet state codes. Whether or not it meets proportion or you're happy with it, that's up to you guys to decide. But for, just for point that 6 foot wide by 18-inch deep tread exceeds what code requires.
Trying to stay within historic standards and guidelines. We are entertaining the thought of reducing the size of an existing feature on a contributing resource, whereas it could just as easily be maintained.
But to Hank's point earlier, with the walk over to the driveway, if it was removed, it does not diminish the historic characteristics of the house as it exists now.
And it's an addition. Here we are removing and replacing. I think there's a distinction there.
Okay, thank you. Jeff Johnson, is that something you would want to consider, or do you want to?
Can I make a
Chris,
counter
Chris,
to
sure.
that, please, before we go? So when you look at the cadence of how you walk, having a single step is really a kind of a very dangerous thing. So the way the existing porch is designed with, I'll have to refer back to my drawing, so excuse me. But we had an existing, it wasn't really a step. It was basically a porch slab with another large porch slab. So you came out of the house with the step. You had to walk a couple steps, go down a single step, walk a couple steps down a single step. That is actually, we would never design that architecturally today because you don't get a good rhythm of walking. What is there where you walk up foot on step and then the next foot goes up to the next riser on the landing is a much safer condition than replicating a single step. Additionally, if I were to keep that existing size of that landing, it's basically 2 porches stacked on top of each other. The overall depth, if I were to put that onto this new layout, it would push it even deeper into the front yard and then have that unsafe condition. I would disagree with that. I'd like to refer back to the U.S. Department of Interior standards for rehabilitation. That is what governs this commission. And that specifically does allow for alterations and additions to historic properties. So I don't see that maintaining an unsafe condition falls within our requirements. And I think additions and alterations are allowable under what governs our district.
I have a question. How have people changed their walking since the house was built to now?
People
Is
haven't
that a
changed the way
question
they
for
walk,
me?
but building codes have caught up with the way that people are designed. It's an ergonomic change to the building code that would not, that the current design of that porch would not be allowed today based on building codes.
Thanks, Jim. Chris, are you in agreement with that?
Yes, I would.
Okay.
I agree
So
with that.
historic doesn't always necessarily mean safest. So if we can keep that in mind. Okay, seeing that there's no public, we won't worry about public participation at this point. I'm sorry, Mark? What?
Oh, I'm sorry. You were talking about public participation.
Oh, yeah, I don't see that there is any public who have tuned in this evening, so,
I do not have anybody in the waiting room, Madam Chair.
okay, thank you. Okay, does anybody have any further questions or comments for Mr. Johnson?
I do.
Okay, Mark, sorry.
I would like to point out, there's a couple members of the commission who seem to be just totally hung up on preservation of the existing form of any structure. No alterations at all, or nearly so. it is not our job to prevent alteration. It is our job to see that any proposed alteration conforms to the guidelines and does not change the historic character of a property. So when you get hung up on dimensions, I think you're nitpicking. If you look at the proposed plan, I cannot see any way in which this would alter the character of the building. It is, as has been pointed out, it is totally consistent with the character of houses built in that style in that time period. And as has also been noted, the safety factor, the guidelines allow us to approve changes that improve functionality and safety. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a perfectly acceptable plan.
Thank you, Mark. I mean, I know that we all know that every resource is considered on its own merits, although this is not the first time for safety that we've had to consider something that was altering the original. So please keep that in mind for the step. We can also issue a notice to proceed instead of a certificate of appropriateness if we want to do it that way. So is there anybody who would like to make a motion to approve the plans as presented?
I could make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Is there a second?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
could you incorporate or incorporate into there what standards you're basing that on, so that for the record, we have a motion with standards?
Okay. Chris, that would be,
Yeah, I'm looking, I know 2, and we mentioned 10 and 9.
nine.
All those apply.
Okay. I agree. So is there somebody who'd like to make a second on the motion?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Jim. All those in favor of letting Mr. Johnson?
Madam Chair, roll call vote, please.
Roll call. Oh, yeah, I'm
Roll
getting
call.
there. Yeah.
Thank you.
As presented, Martha,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes,
Mark,
Yes.
Rick,
No,
Steve,
Yes,
Chris made the motion, Jim made the motion, and I agree as well. I think it's a good plan. Thank you again for bringing the plans to us and listening to all the comments from the previous meeting. I think it's a very nice project. I think, based on the vote, everybody agrees with that sentiment. So.
Madam Chair,
Thank
before
you.
we move on to the next item of business, Jeff, just for clarification, you just need to add on to your existing permit to include the front walkway as approved by the Historic District. If you give me a call tomorrow or an email, we'll be able to set that up and make that happen for you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you,
Okay.
everybody. Appreciate
Thanks
your
for
time
joining
and your
us. Have a
comments.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a great night. Take care.
Okay, so in other business, Hank, we'll just move on to election of officers. Is that,
You can do that, Madam Chair. I do want to point out just one thing too. As we are currently down to 8 members, in January, when new members will become appointed or would become appointed, they won't be this year. Through attrition, and Mr. DeMannon is termed out, so he will be leaving us this December. I appreciate all his efforts for God knows how many years Rick's been around doing this, since the Historic District Study Committee.
Yep.
But so at that point in time, Rick will be term limited. So we, as a commission, designed by the City Commission, are now going down to 7 members, which will mean 4 is a quorum and will mean 4 that is what is necessary to have a vote. So that's where that goes. And again, Madam Chair, the floor is yours for the election of officers.
Okay, for the election of officers, I'll go ahead and accept nominations. I'm going to start off by nominating Chris Vogelheim to serve as chair. He's been vice chair for a little while now, and I think it's appropriate, given his expertise, personality, and, you know, passion for historic district, that I think he would be a wonderful chair for this commission. Is there, are there any other nominations?
Yes,
Okay,
I
Martha,
would like to nominate Robert for chair.
okay,
Madam Chair, both of those nominations are going to need seconds.
okay.
I'll second for Robert.
Is there somebody who would second my nomination of Chris?
I will second the nomination of Chris.
Okay, thank you, Steve. And is there a second for the nomination of Robert to serve as chair?
I did, Rick.
Rick? Okay, thanks, Rick. All those, I'll do a roll call. Those.
Madam Chair, why don't you do one person first and then the second? It doesn't matter what order they go in, because if one has enough votes, the other one obviously wouldn't. So
Okay,
however you want to go first, it doesn't make any difference.
okay, well, I'll just take them in the order,
Can I vote for
presented.
myself?
So,
Yes, you can.
of course,
Okay,
we expect you to. We
Kinda
expect
have
If you
to
accepted
now.
the nomination, I would imagine you would.
Okay, I have to.
Just like I'm sure Robert would vote for himself.
you
Okay.
got
I
it.
think
Yeah.
I will.
Okay, so all of those who would like Chris to be our incoming chair, I'll roll call. Martha?
Nay.
Nominated Robert. Mark?
Chris.
Chris? Steve?
Chris,
Chris, of course. Jim?
Aye.
Okay, and me. So me, Mark, Steve, Chris, and Jim. So that's 5.
That's,
That's
That-
it.
And
that's
that would
5. That's it.
Because that would be 3 for Robert. Okay.
Okay.
Congratulations, Chris. The incoming chair,
Thank you.
2021.
You now have a vice chair position available.
Okay, is there anybody who would like to make a nomination for somebody to serve as vice chair?
I would nominate you, Louise.
Oh, okay.
And I would second that.
Yeah, I'll second
Thank
it.
you, Steve and Mark. It'd be my honor to continue on if Chris is unable to be present. Martha?
I'd like to
Wait,
nominate Robert for vice chair.
Okay. Is there a second to that nomination?
I'll second. Rick.
Okay, thank you, Rick. All those who would like me to serve as incoming vice chair? Mark,
Yes,
Steve,
Louise.
Yes,
Chris,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
and I vote for myself. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a 5.
So Robert would get 3.
Robert would have 3.
Right.
Okay, so at the next meeting, there will be 7 members. That's what we'll have. The second reading of the ordinance took place last night by the city commission. And by the second date, by the date of the next meeting, which will be in January, that will be in force. Madam Chair, at this point in time, that's all I have for you this evening.
Okay, does anybody have anything they'd like to say? Questions, comments, or other business? Okay,
I would like to make one comment before,
Rick,
since this is the last meeting I've had.
sure.
One thing that I have noticed over the last 2 or 3 years is more of a technical interpretation of the statutes regarding historic houses. I feel that the commission, for large part, ignores the aesthetic value. And that I found very disturbing, but it is a trend. And with that, I'll stop. Thanks.
Thank you. We thank you for your service too, Rick, over all these years. You were an important part of getting this whole thing established to begin with, so. Okay, unless there's anything else. Motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
Chris, is there a second?
Second.
Jim, thank you very much. Hey, thank you, everybody. Have a nice holiday if we don't see each other.
Good
Take
night,
care.
all.
Be safe, everyone.
Yeah.
Good night, all.
Thanks for everything.